Athletes and high performers typically, they kind of normalize pain until it gets chronic. And this is where it's really critical to be aware of what's going on with your body. If you're overtraining and some of those things, it can create a whole host of problems. As we age, those processes get harder and harder and less productive, as well as we're exposed to all these crazy things. And then if you tackle on overtraining, poor sleep, stress, like gut issues, all those different things, your body's ability to recover and regenerate becomes, very, very limited. You got to find solutions for getting rid of this inflammation. And so there's the peptide solution. So you can target the inflammation naturally with some different peptides like BPC 157. All right, welcome everybody to the Ageless Future Podcast. This is your host, Cade Archibald. Today, we're going to jump into muscle inflammation and regeneration. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here for us. And nice work, Bill. Got cold shower every day, 2 workouts. Hey, that's awesome. That's great. Great work. Keep trucking those cold showers. I don't know if they ever get easier. Just like, stepping in there, it's always kind of like, oh man, even when you're a veteran, it's still like it's painful, but the aftermath of it, you feel so good and it's so worth it. So, and it's great. It's transforming that white fat into brown fat, which brown fat's a lot easier to metabolize. It cuts off circulation to fat cells so you can burn off cells. So it's awesome. All right, we're getting a little too carried away on last week's topic. So this week, we're going to talk about muscle inflammation and regeneration. And we are going to dive in here right now. So a few things. So there's the impact of muscle inflammation. It's actually your body's first response to injury. So like inflammation, especially in acute phase, is actually not a bad thing. That's like your body's process of healing and sending all these different recovery mechanisms to an area of damage in the body. So, inflammation is the body's first response to injury. Chronic muscle inflammation disrupts that recovery and performance. So if it's this nagging inflammation that's just not recovering fully, that's where we got a problem that is just your body's not able to quite fully repair it. And so it leads to muscle weakness, stiffness, pain, longer recovery time and from exercise or just traditional injury. Athletes and high performers typically, they kind of normalize pain until it gets chronic. And this is where it's really critical to be aware of what's going on with your body and check in and make sure that you're giving yourself time to recover. Because if you're overtraining and some of those things, it can create a whole host of problems. It's really the root cause of chronic muscle inflammation can be overtraining. Sleep is a big one. If you have poor sleep habits, you're not giving yourself enough time to rest and recover. That's going to cause problems. Stress, gut dysfunction or dysbiosis, nutrient deficiencies, those are all different key drivers of what can cause chronic muscle inflammation. Some of your inflammatory cytokines, like IL-6, TNF-alpha, those will still stay elevated during times of injury, or if you have a lot of stress, if your cortisol levels are all out of whack, and that causes your body to not regenerate itself appropriately, or stalls out the regeneration process of your body's healing mechanisms. Because I think we'd all agree our bodies have these amazing, just built-in healing mechanisms. Problem is as we age, those processes get harder and harder and less productive, as well as we're exposed to all these crazy things. And then if you tackle on overtraining, poor sleep, stress, like gut issues, all those different things, your body's ability to recover and regenerate becomes, very, very limited. And so we want to focus on how we can optimize these things, because it's that aging process just gradually over time, causes that inflammation naturally, essentially. So let's talk a little bit specifically on regeneration versus inflammation, because it's a delicate balance. There's healthy inflammation that's kind of the spark for regeneration. And so, you get an injury, it's going to get swollen, you're going to have this inflammation, and that's your body just pulling all its soldiers in, saying, hey, like I got this torn muscle, or I got this problem here, let's get to work. But if it lags and it lingers there for a long time, it actually becomes detrimental, and it's actually creates a storm or a fire that's destroying the tissue, and it's not actually doing any good. So the regeneration depends on resolving inflammation. So, getting that inflammation, so it does all the work that it can, and it's got to get out of there. And then activating satellite muscle cells or muscle stem cells. So your body's got stem cells in there, and they'll go to work regenerating those cells. Muscles can't rebuild efficiently if inflammation's unchecked. That's an important factor here, and this goes back to overtraining. If you just continually overtrain, whether that's you're lifting weights or you're just excessive running as well, even, if you're injuring something while you're running, or you're just creating excess cortisol by not getting adequate recovery time, your regeneration process is going to be diminished significantly. So there's a few interesting studies here on chronic inflammation and how it impairs skeletal muscle regeneration. So taking a comprehensive review of clinical and animal model studies, exploring some of the impacts on chronic inflammation on these muscle satellite cells, and showed they're very essential for muscle regeneration. So interesting things around this. So persistent inflammatory signals prevent the resolution phase of healing, leading to fibrosis. So you can get fibrosis, impaired regeneration, even muscle wasting. So you can't really build muscle after that point. And so you start, essentially losing muscle. And so you have, if your immune system's persistently activated, this can have a lot to do with kind of the gut health. If you have digestive system dysfunction, and that's going to lead to, typically your immune system gets activated easily. You can get autoimmune flare-ups and things there. And so activated that, it can't recover. And so you have there's macrophages and cytokines like TNF alpha, IL-6, they inhibit muscle regeneration and the aging and chronic disease process. So the total conclusion on this specific study was chronic inflammation disrupts the activation, proliferation, and differentiation of satellite cells. So the key factor here is you got to find solutions for getting rid of this inflammation. And so one solution we really like is there's the peptide solution. So you can target the inflammation naturally with some different peptides like BPC-157, just amazing, TB4, thymosin beta 4 or TB500, as well as GHK copper. They can actually help accelerate the repair process and reduce those inflammatory cytokines, that TNF alpha, IL-6. So you can reduce those. BPC, one of the things it's doing, helping protecting blood vessels, speed of muscle and tendon healing. TB500 or thymosin beta 4, those help, they're very help with the vascular regeneration as well. So these peptides, they help restore some of the natural communication between the immune and the muscle cells. So if you can get the right communication there, then you can start to activate some more regeneration. And so, right now, I'd say BPC-157, super popular. So is thymosin beta 4 in kind of the bodybuilder world or just in the peptide world in general, just because it's such a powerful peptide from helping with that recovery standpoint. And another study here, and this is gastric, essentially it's the BPC 157. I can never pronounce the official, it's gastric pentadecapeptide. That's what BPC stands for. So BPC 157 and its role in accelerating musculoskeletal soft tissue healing. And so this study showed BPC 157 accelerates healing in tendons, ligaments, and muscles by promoting angiogenesis. So that's the formation of new blood vessels, and collagen organization, collagen's essential for tissue repair. Work through nitric oxide pathways and VEGF pathways, enhancing the cellular repair mechanisms without disrupting the natural healing process. So, essentially BPC was found to help protect the tissue under stress and inflammation. It was tested in models of tendon rupture, muscle trauma, and ligament damage, and also without any toxic side effects. So that's you look at pretty much all these peptides, the toxicity is virtually, you just haven't found any or much at all. And so it's a beautiful thing when you can get these different pathways open with peptides to help with that signaling and communication with your cells. Another option, if you want to take it to the next level on muscle recovery, you have umbilical cord plasma. So this is very rich in IGF-1, TGF-beta, and IL-10. So these are powerful agents in muscle healing and reducing those other inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-6. And so it also contains exosomes, cytokines that regulate the inflammation and tissue regeneration process. So it's, exosomes, they're those little signaling factors that actually are kind of finding areas of damage and sending signals to the rest of your regeneration process in your body to say, hey, let's get to work over here. And unlike steroids or NSAIDs, it promotes long-term regeneration as opposed to kind of short-term pain relief and just killing the inflammation. And, there's obviously side effects with the steroids and the NSAIDs. So definitely a lot better option. And then if you go to the full regeneration process, you can look at stem cells. So, we talked about peptides for inflammation and chronic pain, talked about umbilical cord or cord plasma or the plasma renewal process. And then next here, talking about stem cells from umbilical cord tissue. And this is really helping repair what the inflammation broke. Because, if you have that chronic inflammation there, it's long-term, it's breaking down that joint if you're dealing with chronic inflammation process. And so it kind of breaks down that joint or whatever that tissue is. And then these stem cells come in, they release trophic and anti-inflammatory factors that downregulate the immune overreaction. So they kind of come in and say, hey, chill out, let's put the fire out. In one of these studies here, perinatal tissue or perinatal stem cells reverse degeneration in knees and shoulders with lasting impacts. And essentially, you get that tissue in the stem cell and umbilical cord tissue into the knee joint, shoulders, really helps, kind of clear out that inflammation if it's still there, as well as just get to work repairing. So when you combine the peptides with stem cells and cord plasma, you get this huge amplification of regeneration and not just symptom relief. If we look at it from some of our clients and our clinical experience, we've clients report 2 times faster recovery, reduced soreness, improved strength, and fewer injuries with peptide and regenerative protocols. So we even had a client with chronic shoulder pain return to high-level training after 60 days on specific peptide stack and cord plasma. I was using some of those specific peptides discussed earlier, BPC 157, TB4, GHK. Another client experienced full restoration after decades of limited mobility with inflammation-linked muscle atrophy. So really just want to challenge you guys to make your best decade starts right now. And it's really at any age, regardless if you're listening to this and you're in perfect health and you're in your teens, 20s, whatever, or if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, like it doesn't matter where you're at. There's always great starting points and launching places to start eliminating that inflammation if you have any pain, and just really focusing on leveling up your health to the next level. So hopefully I didn't get too intense on some of these concepts today, but really simple. We just want to get rid of inflammation that's there chronically. If it's acute, a lot of times it's good. You're going to help. That's your body's healing process. But once it's there for more than about 30 days and it's just nagging, even a couple weeks, at that point, we really want to look at, okay, there's something more going on. We got to do something to help clear out that inflammation so the body can fully regenerate and get some regeneration process. So got some great solutions there. And yeah, my challenge to you would be is if you have any chronic pain, any of these different things, and you maybe haven't tried them or haven't done a really specific protocol to address that pain and inflammation, reach out to us or at least, try some of these out. If you're working with us already and you're dealing with some of this chronic pain, talk to your provider and get a game plan, get on our recovery blend. It's awesome. Or at least beta 4 BPC 157 combo. It's awesome peptide. And I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. And we'll see you next time on the Ageless Future Podcast.